Joining us now from Mexico City is Eugene Puryear. He's a journalist and one of the international observers in the election on Sunday. Eugene, thanks for joining us. Now, of course, corruption and irregularities in Mexican elections aren't new. As an observer, how worried are you about this?
Well, I think we have to be worried about the issue of corruption and any sort of rigging of the vote, given both the history and I think given the stakes that are really going forward here in Mexico and the major changes that we could see, and I think the regional implications that could have both in Latin America and in the United States. What I will say, though, however, is that I have been able to see that there is a robust effort by supporters of Mr. López Obrador to prevent fraud, and I think that certainly I have a lot of confidence in the enthusiasm of people to not only go out and vote, but to go out and to defend their vote, which is something that I don't think you see on a regular basis in any country around the world. So I think it's certainly a worry, but I think it's something that's been in the air for some time, and thus, because of that, people are prepared. So I expect that it could be a factor, but I don't know if it will be the determining factor.
Of course, finally, you can't talk about this election without talking about the violence that's plagued it. Now, are you worried about it? Do you think it'll have an impact on the voters on Sunday?
I don't think it will have an impact. I think that, quite frankly, the violence, like the issue of the corruption, is a motivating factor for people, because I think that ultimately it speaks to the fact that the election, that there are those who do not want Mr. López Obrador to succeed, that there are those who do not want corruption to be uprooted, who do not want for average working people and peasants and others to be empowered. And I think the fact that there is such brutal repression, another phrase that we have in the United States is, especially those of us like myself who are in the progressive movement, is repression breeds resistance. And I think certainly that is what I think we've seen throughout the entire campaign. I don't think that so far that any of the killings or the violence has been able to slow down Mr. López Obrador. It certainly hasn't dropped him in the polls. And so I think obviously it's a very unfortunate situation, but I don't think it's one that is cowing the voters here in Mexico.
Eugene, thanks very much for your time. Eugene Puryear, an election observer working out of Mexico City.